Hey guys, Knife's Tale here, bringing you another knife review. Today we're going to be looking at a very interesting design that I don't think was maybe talked about as much as it possibly deserved. And unfortunately has now been discontinued, but you can still find them, especially the slip joint version. This is the locking version. You can still find them around in some websites. I'll try to give you a link to something. I'll definitely link the slip joint version, but I think there's a couple websites that still have the regular versions. And so, what are we looking at here? We're looking at a Civivi pocket knife in G10 and carbon fiber kind of bolster, faux bolster, I don't know. It is a front flipper with a, but you can use this fuller, I couldn't think of the word there, or the reverse flick, no problem whatsoever. The blade steel is, let's see if we can get that in, Nitro V in standard Civivi and we custom. The blade is very, very unbranded. it's not marked up a lot, which is something I like and really appreciate about their knives. They don't dirty up the blade with a bunch of lettering and codes and titles and logos and everything else. This knife is a... Oh, that was my fault. Yeah, that's the one thing. This pocket front flipper takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's really easy to do this with. It's really easy to do this with. When you push it, you have to realize that if you're on it low, you kind of just push into the scale, so you really got to go up to the top of it and pop it. This knife also comes with a deep carry pocket clip with inset screws, which is nice because it's a little bit more unique than just their standard stamped clip. Let us get, where is that? There it is. Get that centered. Some measurements. The Appalachian Drifter is 2.9 inch blade, I'd say. It's under 3 inches. So that might be important to some people who have limits on the length. The overall length on this knife is about 6 3/4. Maybe just a hair larger than that, so 6.8 maybe. The handle length is not particularly large either, being 3 7/8, so 3.85-ish, give or take. It's a small knife, and we will see that when we make a comparison right now. Comparison also by Civivi. The Elementum for small knives, and the Civivi Conspirator for full size. And I'm still willing to hear anybody out if they have better options for small and full size knives. It's about a 3 inch, about 3.5 for comparisons. I just figured this is a pretty popular knife and well known, and the Conspirator is a very comparable, very straightforward knife. So, and still just near that budget territory enough that more people might have experience with it. But put your thoughts of better options down below. So as you can see, the Appalachian Drifter here is quite small. I think this is technically the Appalachian Drifter 2, and the slip joint is just the regular Appalachian Drifter, but semantics. It's a small, very minimal pocket knife. I mean, it is arguably making the Elementum look big. It is, however, a bit thicker than the Elementum. Let's see if we can get that to focus in real well. Yeah. It's not as thick as the Conspirator, but I wonder, does this work better for thickness comparisons? Or does being over the mat work better for thickness comparisons? Let me know if anybody cares to. What helps you see better? Hardware check being T8. T8. And you know what? I'm pretty sure there are T8s underneath too. So this is T8 all around despite being a very small knife. Maybe there are T6s under there, but I don't see why they'd put T8 hardware holding on the scales. The pocket clip's T6, but the pocket clip's not reversible, so you don't have to worry about that. It's probably T8 all around for anything that you have to be concerned about. Which is really nice, especially on such a small knife. So often do we see T6 at this coming in on larger knives. Let's get a weight of the Appalachian Drifter, 2.59 ounces. Yeah, this thing is a featherweight. You're getting more than an ounce an inch, and it disappears into the pocket. And the reverse flick is surprisingly satisfying. Let's get some thickness measurements here. Just shy of 500 thousandths, so just shy of half an inch. Handle thickness. Blade stock looks to be about 97.5, so basically 100 thousandths. And behind the edge, which this is going to be a gigantic pain in the butt because it is thin and way too far down the blade I am. Honestly, I think I'm still too far down the blade. I am. $12 thousandths behind the edge? That might still honestly be a little bit over. It's just super hard to get to because it is extremely thin. This is hollow ground. You can't really see it very well because it's such a goddamn thin blade. But it's hollow ground. You can kind of see the arc in there. Yeah, in the reflection. And it is ultra mega thin. It is, I'd say 12, 13 thousandths behind the edge at most. And it stays thin up the blade. It's got a thin stock, super thin geometry. This thing is a laser beam. You want a cutter? This will cut very, very well. The plunge grind could be a little bit better. It is here. It leaves you with just a tiny hint of stuff to start cutting off before you get to a choil, but the stop pin is up in here. Let's see if we can get a... Oh no, I'm sorry. The stop pin is actually technically attached to the blade. It is a full internal stop pin attached to the blade. So not only is it internal, but being attached to the blade, in my opinion, that offers more stability. Because you have 2 points of connection instead of just hitting on the blade itself. So, I mean, this companies need to do more in general. Let alone on a small, inexpensive knife like this. Yeah, that's pretty great. So you can do whatever you want with this choil. You're not going to have an issue. You have a little tiny bit of life with sharpen off. Actually, you probably have more life than I'm even saying to sharpen off because of how small this edge bevel is, because of how thin it is behind the edge. Even though it comes just about to the edge, you're still probably going to get a couple sharpens out of it. So, this knife is on bearings, I should mention. I mean, you can probably see that. It is a little tight, mine is at least. But it seems to be from the pressure of the lock bar itself that holds it a little tight. Some Civivis are a little tighter in general. Some Wii's used to be. They're fewer and far between now. But yeah, they tend to be, that was my fault. I myself just said you have to go up top on this flipper tab and decided to go all the way down here and do nothing. So yeah, it's a little tight, but it's not got the weight to be countering a strong lock bar because there's like no weight in this knife blade at all. So, ergos. I guess I will mention ergos now. Ergos are fantastic. I mean, it's super neutral. Yes, it's got a cant here, but that just sort of positions it more aggressively forward in your hand. The pocket clip is, you can feel it, but it is very comfortable even for a budget clip. It is pretty comfortable. It does have a little bit of Civivi's standard flat space on the end of the clip, but honestly, a lot less than they usually like to do. And there's good retention here. So this is probably better than even a lot of other Civivis in and out of the pocket, in my estimation and experience. And they're not typically bad in and out of the pocket. But it's surprisingly comfortable, even though you feel a clip. And it's super neutral. You can sort of get wherever you want on the knife. I mean, there's not a whole lot of handle there to move around on, but you're fine either way. And I suppose this little notch in the blade, being such a small handle, you can sort of get your finger all the way out there and really get some control for some tip work, I guess. And despite being, a clip point, I'm not going to call it a trailing point, but it is sort of upswept just a tiny bit like a trailing point. The tip is still very accessible. I'm not at a bad angle to really use that. And the tip is, yeah, super fine, super pokey. This particular version also has a pretty attractive belt satin on it. It's kicking to the camera and looking very almost like pure sheen, but it's a pretty nice belt satin. It's not bad. So, I've carried this knife, and I like this knife a lot. It disappears into the pocket. It cuts wonderfully. It's held up quite well. I haven't beaten on or anything, but don't beat on this knife. Just don't. It's too. It is a small, light to use knife, but for cutting, yeah, it performs so well. I guess the only negative would be lock bar access. As you can see, there's nothing cut back. They did give you a little bit of gap on the liner, so you can't come from the side completely, but it's not terrible. That little gap they left you does give you enough room to get in there and sort of just pop it off or disengage it or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I suppose it could be a little bit better. I suppose it could be a little bit more access. If they had also cut down the scale just a tad bit, it would probably be perfect. But it's hardly bad. And price point on this knife. The slip joint versions, I think, since this is discontinued, pretty much every version of this knife is going to be on sale pretty frequently. I think the original price was something around $75. The slip joint versions are typically around $55, and this thing, the locking version's probably around $60. I think that's what I bought it for, and it was on sale. And being discontinued, yeah, it's either always on sale or it is on sale very frequently. So this is a really good knife for that price. And that's really all there is to say about that. This is a very budget-friendly knife. This is a very good knife with a little bit of a traditional swagger to it, I guess you could say. And even if you don't like front flippers, it doesn't behave like one. Or it doesn't have to behave like one. So this is a good one. Civivi has a lot of good ones. A lot of the main budget brands know what they're doing, but this is an interesting enough one that it's worth taking a look at. I honestly kind of hope they do a slightly larger one. Maybe a little less curvature in the handle, but I mean, even just scaling it up would be fine, but I'm just worried about if you scale it up too much, you'll have too much of a hook in there. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a larger version of this, honestly. It's pretty interesting. And it works pretty great. So, we're going to end things here. Yep. Thanks for watching if you did. Like and subscribe if you want. And I will see you in future videos, or I will speak to you in future videos. I won't see you ever. That's not how this works. See ya.